Hi Intermediate, we're back. Video number 2 now. Let's do this middle case, the less than. So if the point is heading towards the absolute value, it's the less than, because you're going to read it from left to right. So the absolute value of x is less than or equal to a. So this is the less than case. So let's do that one now. And I'll also show you one without the bar so that you can see that. And I'll also show you some new notation. But let me just hit like one thing at a time. Okay, I'm sort of staring at your book to see. Okay, actually, let me just start with one really basic again. So if I say the absolute value of x is less than or equal to 3, the rule how you take off the absolute value, it says if you're going to take it off, then you have to put x in between the positive and negative of what's outside. Okay, so for me to pull off this absolute value means I have to put x in the middle of the positive and negative of what's outside. Okay, so that means that x is going to sit in between -3 and 3. Now this is not read left to right. You actually start in the middle with x and you read around x. So I say x is greater than or equal to -3 and less than or equal to 3. So actually when it's an inequality like this, you actually read it from the center. And graphically what that's going to look like is that's closed on the ends. And we got everything in the middle. So if it's a less than, it sits in the middle of the number line. If it's a greater than, it sits on the ends. Okay, so I'm just eyeballing your book because I want to give you questions that are similar to what's in your book. So let me grab this one. 4a plus 1 is less than or equal to 12. All right, now that rule I said earlier with the equal sign, it's the same idea. You have to make sure this is isolated first. And it is. There's nothing outside of it, in front of it, under it. It's isolated. So if it's isolated, you can go right to the conversion of taking it out of absolute value form. So again, the idea is that whatever's in here goes in the middle of the positive and negative of what's outside. Now what tends to confuse students is they get like a little concerned if what's in here is huge. If there's like a ton of things here. It doesn't matter. You're just going to have a ton of, you just have a huge middle. And that's fine. Sometimes you just got to roll with it, right? So here, this is what's in the absolute value. It's 4a plus 1. So I have to put that in the middle of the positive and negative of what's on the other side. Like this. Okay? So whatever's here goes in the middle of the positive and negative of what's on the other side. And now your job is to get this a by itself. So there's like a couple steps here now to get this a by itself. Now since there's 3 parts to this, you have to be fair. You have to be fair to everybody. So like if I take away 1 from the middle, I have to take 1 away from the left and the right. So what you do to one piece, you have to do all 3. All right, so that gets rid of that guy. All right, now we'll work on getting the a by itself. So now divide off the 4. And none of these numbers are lovely. Sometimes that happens. Okay, so that's actually the final answer. Just in case you're concerned, I don't care if you hand in the fractions as improper, which this is, or a mixed number. Just please make sure they're reduced. That's the only request, okay? I always have to laugh at myself when I find that you learn a lot about yourself when you're filming. Like I like to look at things on an angle, and you may not like to, so I have to line myself up here. Okay, here we go, and that is the answer to that. I'm going to probably come back to these towards the end just to show you the new notation, but like I said, right now, let's just hit one concept at a time to make sure we've got it. Okay, so that's the answer to this guy. All right, let's do another one. Let's have some more fun here. Let me eyeball your homework again. Okay, I like this one. Let's try this guy. 8c minus 3 plus 15 is less than 20. Now notice this dude doesn't have the bar on it. So this is going to be slightly different in the answer. Pretty much the same, but just a slight difference. Now, do you know what you should do first here? Okay, hopefully you do. Hopefully you're like, yeah, I'm going to move the 15 out. And that would be correct. You got to get rid of that 15. And it looks like we're going to vary the colors here for you to keep it interesting. Okay. All right. Now that is isolated, we can go ahead and use that rule. You remember the rule? You take what's in here and you put it in between the positive and negative of what's outside. Okay, so it's going to sit in between -5 and 5. Now, our job is to get c by itself. So to get c by itself, we first have to move the 3. That would get rid of the 3, but we have to do that to everybody. Got to keep everything equal or balanced. All right, and then I'm almost there. I just got to divide off the 8. And again, here, please, please, please reduce your fractions. All right, so this will be -1/4. This will be c, and this will be a 1. Okay? Let's draw that. So this is a part I was mentioning before. Since there's no bar, it means that these are open on the ends. Okay, if there's no bar, it means that it actually cannot include the very end values here, but the answer has everything in the middle of them, like this. Okay, so that's your answer, and there's your graph of your answer. All right, that's that one. Just to rehash real quick, make sure you isolate the absolute value first. Once it's isolated, you convert the form. Once you convert the form, you then just want to isolate the variable in the middle. And then just depending on whether the answer is closed or open, will determine whether your segment is closed or open. All right, let's see if we have time for one more. I may make something up if let me see how hard this gets in your... You do this again in pre-calc, that's why I'm just sort of wondering, but the brunt of it is here. You're going to learn the brunt of this topic here. Let me make up one. Let me, so we do one more. Let's do 3 over x minus 2 less than or equal to 4. Okay, let's try this. So the first thing we want to do is divide off the 3 to both sides. So, because you got to get this absolute value by itself. So I'm going to divide 3 to both sides, and that gets rid of that. And somebody somewhere is saying, my God, Whelan gave us a fraction already. And I did. Guilty. Guilty as charged. All right, so we got 4/3. So the absolute value of x over 2 is less than or equal to 4/3. Now I can take it out of this form because this guy's isolated. So x over 2 is going to sit in between the positive and negative of what's over here. Now, the action is not what's on the ends. The action is in the middle. You're done when the middle is cleaned up. It doesn't matter how messy the ends get. So I'm almost there. I just have to get rid of dividing by 2. So that means I have to multiply by 2 to cancel this. And again, you have to do that the same thing to everybody. So you have to multiply everybody by 2. Okay, there we go. And this guy's closed. We look like that. Okay, so just to rehash real quick again. First you isolate the absolute value. So in this case I divided by 3. Once you isolate the absolute value, you take whatever in the absolute value, you put it in between the positive and negative of what's outside. Then the last step is to isolate, so you get the variable hanging out alone in the center. And then you draw it. If it's closed, the answer is closed. If it's open, the answer is open. Okay, gang, I'm going to end this video here. Hope you enjoyed it. Catch you in another one. Bye-bye.